Here's a question for you. Since when did it become morally acceptable to monetize children? To abuse children for clicks, views, subscribers, and of course, ad revenue. People like Micah Stoffer, they really frustrate me because they think they can pick up a child, adopt a child, make sure the child is Asian, make sure the child has special needs because, of course, people like Micah Stoffer, they love ad revenue. And sponsors they love diversity. So if you're a white family, then you just go to China, adopt a child from there. And then they drop that child like the child was tennis. When they realize that, it's too much or it's not really worth it for them anymore.
Like, I don't even know how I'm going to function if someone tells me that I can't bring a Huxley. Like, this isn't just a kid in China. This is my son. Like, this is my son. Like, I have already birthed him in my heart. He is my son.
But I suppose if you're Micah Stoffer, you already made all the ad revenue you wanted to make. Over 20 videos were made detailing the adoption journey to China, one with over 6 million views, and she featured Huxley in many, many more family vlogs. So I guess this isn't the first time that this kind of abuse happens on YouTube at the hands of clout-chasing parents, however. A quick look through YouTube reveals a really troubling pattern. There's a mother on YouTube who produces content where she disciplines her children for the whole entire world to see, which is fine. You can discipline your children if you're a parent and that's what you want to do. Go for it. But then, looking at her videos, you realize that her punishments are just a tad bit extreme.
This happens quite often when you're raising children, because I know that her teacher is uncomfortable with her being hungry and not having a lunch, and it would ease her discomfort if I came to the school with a lunch. But I responded and just said, Eve is responsible for making her lunches in the morning, and she actually told me she did pack a lunch. So the natural outcome is she's just going to need to be hungry, and hopefully nobody gives her food and nobody steps in and gives her a lunch.
Which makes me wonder, would she have used those same punishments had the cameras not been rolling? If not, then I'm really concerned for her children's welfare. What she is basically doing is creating entertainment content out of disciplining, out of punishing her children excessively. Someone call CPS right now. Social media really does bring out the very best in people. Most of these channels, they produce content that is entirely focused on their children. The children, if you like, they are the talent, they are the breadwinners of these families, because most of the time the parents, they quit their full-time jobs to become managers or producers of the show, whatever you want to call them. Personally, I call them bad parents, but that's just me. Imagine being like 8 years old and having the impossible burden put on your shoulders of having to put food on the table every day. You're having an off day? Well, suck it up. We're filming today. Just pretend everything's fine. Think of the psychological impact this has on someone who is still growing up, who is very much the star of the show, but has no agency in it whatsoever, who in a lot of cases did not choose this life. I'm deeply uncomfortable watching content like this because it's impossible to tell if the children are actually doing okay, if they are happy, and if they really want this, if they are okay or they approve of sharing very private details of their lives. Some of the youngest children, I don't think they comprehend the magnitude of what's happening and what they're doing or what they're involved in. So let me get this out of the way, because I understand that it can be tough navigating parenthood when your job is being on the internet or involves being on the internet. If you're a famous person or you have aspirations to become a famous person, don't use your children to advance your career. Your children are not commodities. Please treat them as human beings and learn to respect their privacy. One good role model on how to do this is TV's Catherine Ryan, a stand-up comedian from the UK. You should really check her content out. Her shows are all on Netflix. Catherine Ryan is someone who understands that just because she chose to be famous does not mean that her child, her daughter, wants the same for herself. She typically does not post many pictures of her daughter on social media, and when she does, she makes sure you can't identify her daughter. She blurs out her face. She adds weird emoji things on her daughter's face so you can't tell who it is. She respects her daughter's privacy. Please be like Catherine Ryan, don't be like Micah Stauffer. So where do we go from here? Technically, you can only sign up for YouTube if you're 13 years or older. This is how old YouTube thinks you ought to be to, use its platform, whether it is to view videos or create content on it. This is probably the case because at 13 years old, people can be reasonably expected to understand the consequences of their actions and give some kind of informed consent on whether they wish to appear in a video. Why is it then okay for parents to feature their sometimes very young children in their videos? I expect it's because YouTube believes that parents are in a position to safeguard their children's interests. But you know what? Social clout and money has a habit of changing people's priorities. If you enjoyed this video, then please give me a thumbs up. It really helps me with the YouTube algorithm. If you really loved it, then you can subscribe to the channel to keep up to date with all the great content I plan to publish in the future. This is my first video on this channel, so join me on this journey and you'll be one of the very first people, human beings in my family, members of my YouTube family. I think that's what I wanted to say. Until next week then.